I am in this presentation, if I say, is basically to look into the threats of EU values and what Dr. about what is happening in Cyprus. And we had recently also the Greco report, which confirms many of the threats as to EU values in Cyprus. And then to look into cases that happens around the world, including EU member states, but also countries outside EU that have proven that they stand and act based on the values of solidarity, transparency, democracy, and integrity. So this is my plan, and I will be very quick. And because I was thinking that I was also towards the end, I use many icons and images instead of words. Okay, very quickly, a bit of introduction about OPEC, because maybe you are not aware of us. We are established in 1997, and we encourage transparent and pluralistic into certain issues, such as the Cyprus and democracy and freedom of speech, equality, European integration, public policies, environment, education, economy, and social issues. This is about OPEC, just to have an idea. What are we aiming and what are we working through these 25 years? So what are the challenges of the EU values today? And when I was gathering them, I found around 12, if I may say, a bit less than 12. So the first one is the erosion of the rule of law. We have experienced, a lot in Cyprus and in several other countries. We have seen how there is dependency of the, let's say, of the government disregarding the principles of judiciary and also the media freedom and the check and balances. So the absence of that means that we are moving away from the EU values. The corruption, it's another one. If I link it to Cyprus, is the golden passport, but we can see that this is happening in several countries through nepotism, through briberies, and so on. And another aspect that is coming up, and we have observed it, if I'm not mistaken, in Poland and in Hungary, is the authoritarianism, where a lot of power is some of the executives on a country, and that means that we have suppress of several areas like the freedom of speech. We do also experience it in Cyprus in many indirect ways. We have the example of the Cyprus broadcasting television that we are experiencing this kind of aspects. So nationalism and populism, I think it was covered very well by Elke, so I'm not gonna talk about it, but we know how these can on the solidarity and the unity of the member states. Different crises, we went through it through the COVID, and we also have recently the problem with Ukraine. So as you can see, this affect inside each member state. Then the lack of accountability, where different different countries, they don't encourage the accountability of the executives, plus some of the processes of EU not keeping accountable each member state. Information warfare and disinformation, we are all surrounded by fake news, and this is a big issue that has an impact on the EU values. And economic inequality, as we can see in different state members, not all of the state members are in an equal economic state, and that creates a lot of fraction into the EU values. And the most recent, if I may say, challenge that jeopardizes the EU values is the migration, the asylum challenges. We have observed through these years that each member state wants to have different policies and processes as to migration and asylum, so asylum seekers. So this is creating some fractures, if I may call them, between the member states and within the each society. So what EU members can do to address these threats, and I will use some concrete examples, as I mentioned, through different countries and what they are using. The one is educational reform, encouraging critical thinking, encouraging understanding the different fake news and so on. It's a good attempt to learn from young ages to respect the values of the EU. And Finland's it's a unique one as to that. The media literacy programs are very famous, and that in the education system quite well, that it learn from them. Being independent, another aspect of securing the, and a good example, the Norway's broadcasting model, where we know where the money comes from, in transparency. This is a model that is being used a lot in Canada, so I hope that from Canada. Ethics and anti-corruption measures. Singapore, with the pros and cons of this country, still they have a very strict anti-corruption law and governance practices that we can all learn from them. Transparency in the government. The Greco report saying that haven't moved yet to open data, so there isn't a transparency as to that, but the UK's example in mind. Citizen engagement, and this is can also populism, national, involving citizens in different conversations, discussions, and so on. Example of Iceland, strong civil society, that and here is the role of Transparency International in different countries as to that. Electoral reform, the example of New Zealand that adopted a mixed member proportional representation, and this can be also a solution for what we were saying earlier about populist parties appearing all the time. Judicial independence is something that we all suffer a lot, especially in Cyprus, as to the role of the Attorney General. But the system in Germany, it's a good one, although I feel like we do have the same in Cyprus, like we appoint our judges for life, but we use them in, we say in Cyprus in a different way. So I think that it's better to have it every 6 years in Cyprus, so they are not dependent on the next, on the president that is appointed at the time. And ethical leadership, again, I'm talking about Singapore's leaders are known of their commitment to ethical conduct. Of course, there are also other countries that they're doing a great job there. Cross-partisan collaboration. So again, this is a way to fight populism in the sense that you bring the parties together and or being in the government. Protecting human rights, and I'm using the Sweden's example here as to protect human rights. National reconciliation, such as in countries with conflict like ours, like Cyprus, and we can learn from South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Ethics training, that we can do, in public servants and to other areas. This is an example that is used in Australia. And then I left open what else maybe is part of our conversation later on. So what and how, I believe that what we need to do and how we need to do it to secure the EU values. And then we need to demonstrate each of the member states what we have done in order to show transparency and our integrity. And I believe that without an alignment between the EU member states, this will not be achieved. So we need a lot of alignment here. And we need to move towards together, not each member state having their own pace into these 4 values. We need to find a way so all we have the same pace. And that's all from me. Thank you so much for your attention.